He thought he could outrun it, outlive it, outrank it. But the moment Prince Andrew rolled through Sandringham in that silent, cold Range Rover, face frozen, eyes hollow, everything changed. That wasn't just a drive. That was a public exposure, a silent confession, a collapse happening in real time, right in front of a nation that had finally stopped looking away. And here's the part no one wants to say out loud. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't unfortunate. This was inevitable. Because for decades, Andrew lived in a world where consequences simply didn't exist. A 30-room mansion at Royal Lodge, staff hovering at every second, endless money flowing like it would never run dry. A man cocooned in privilege so deep, so suffocating that reality itself couldn't reach him. He didn't just believe he was untouchable, he behaved like it was law, like the system itself bent to him. And maybe for a long time it did, but something shifted, quietly, strategically. And the mastermind behind that shift? His own brother, King Charles III. Not loudly, not emotionally, but decisively. Titles, gone. Honors, gone. Protection, gone. And then came the move that insiders are still whispering about. February 2nd, under darkness. No ceremony, no dignity, just a forced removal. A 132-mile exile to Sandringham. Not a request, not a suggestion, an eviction. And if you think that was the humiliation, you haven't seen anything yet. Because what followed wasn't just a move, it was a purge. Royal Lodge, once buzzing with activity, turned into a ghost shell. And then came the skips. Massive, yellow, unapologetic skips. Parked at the front, at the back, overflowing, stuffed with the remains of a life that once screamed power. His belongings dumped. His past dismantled piece by piece. And here's the detail that chills insiders to the bone. He didn't even come back to collect his own things. Staff were left to handle everything. Sorting, clearing, burning. Yes, burning. Furniture, personal items, pieces of a royal identity reduced to ashes on the very grounds that once worshipped him. A bonfire not just of possessions, but of status, of memory, of illusion. And the message? Brutal, final. There is no going back. One palace source didn't sugarcoat it. Everything had to go. Nothing was to remain. And that sentence alone tells you everything you need to know about how deep this cuts. This wasn't damage control. This was erasure. But just when the story seemed to peak, it twisted. Less than 3 weeks after that silent eviction, on what should have been a quiet birthday morning, the unthinkable happened. An arrest. 11 hours. Police custody. The accusation? Allegedly sharing confidential trade information linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Let that sink in. A royal. Detained. Investigated. The kind of headline that doesn't just shake a family, it shakes an institution. And suddenly, that stone-faced drive through Sandringham didn't look so mysterious anymore. It looked like pressure, like fear, like a man realizing that the walls he once hid behind were gone. Thames Valley Police confirmed it. Investigation ongoing. And Andrew? Denials. Firm. Repeated. But the damage? Already spreading. Because this wasn't just about legal trouble anymore. This was about perception, about credibility, about a monarchy scrambling to distance itself from a scandal that refuses to die. And while all of this unfolds publicly, quietly, another transformation is happening behind the scenes. Andrew's world shrinking. No security detail. No personal allowance. No valet. The luxuries that once defined him stripped away like they were never his to begin with. Royal Lodge, once his empire, now stands nearly empty. A symbol not of power, but of abandonment. And where is he now? Not in Windsor. Not anywhere near the throne. He's been pushed to Wood Farm, waiting for Marsh Farm, a place insiders describe as underwhelming. A far cry from chandeliers and manicured gardens. Instead, mud, flood risks, molehills, pest issues. A downgrade so stark it feels almost symbolic. From palace gates to farmland silence. And here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to admit. This wasn't just punishment. This was positioning. A deliberate, calculated distancing. Because the monarchy knows something the public is only beginning to grasp, this story is far from over. And just when you think the storm has settled, it mutates. Because this was never just about Prince Andrew. No, this is bigger, messier, and far more dangerous than a single fallen royal trying to survive exile. This is about a network of whispers, relationships, and decisions that were buried for years, now clawing their way back into the light. And right at the center of that expanding shockwave stands Sarah Ferguson, Fergie, the ex-wife, the constant shadow, the woman who never really left his side, even after everything. Because while Andrew's world was being stripped brick by brick, something else resurfaced. Documents. fresh ones. 2026 revelations that hit like a quiet explosion. Emails, private words never meant to be seen. And what they reveal is deeply unsettling. Casual praise, unfiltered language, references to Jeffrey Epstein that don't just raise eyebrows, they ignite outrage. Calling him a legend, saying he was the brother I wished for. Even jokes, if you can call them that, about marriage. Offers of jobs, invitations into royal spaces. Buckingham Palace mentioned like it was just another stop on a social tour. Pause there for a second. Let that reality sink in. Because this isn't just poor judgment. This is proximity, comfort, a level of familiarity that makes people ask the question no one in power wants to answer. How deep did this really go? And more importantly, who knew? And as those questions begin to circulate, the pressure doesn't just stay on Andrew. It spreads, quietly, relentlessly. Because Fergie's situation, it's already fragile. Financial cracks that were once hidden are now impossible to ignore. Companies dissolved, charities shut down, reports of stays in Swiss clinics, wellness retreats in Ireland, a lifestyle that once burned through $860,000 a year, now colliding with reality in the harshest way possible. Debt, dependency, and the loss of the one environment that kept everything afloat. Royal Lodge wasn't just a home, it was a shield, a system, a bubble where consequences were delayed, softened, sometimes completely avoided. And now, that bubble is gone, completely. And with Andrew pushed out, that safety net disappears for her too. Suddenly, everything feels exposed, unstable, uncertain. And this is where it stops being a personal downfall and starts becoming an institutional crisis. Because King Charles III isn't just reacting, he's restructuring. Coldly, strategically. Every move calculated to send one clear message: there is no space left for scandal inside the core of the monarchy. No private forgiveness. No quiet return. No second chances hidden behind palace walls. Meetings denied. Visibility reduced. Relevance systematically erased. And the ripple effects, they're brutal. Because this doesn't just isolate Andrew. It traps everyone connected to him in a slow-moving fallout. His daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, left navigating a public image they didn't create but can't escape. Watching their father's name unravel in headlines. Watching doors quietly close. Invitations shrink. Opportunities fade. Not loudly but noticeably. And then there's the silence. That eerie, calculated silence coming from inside the palace. No dramatic statements. No emotional defenses. Just absence. Distance. A vacuum where Andrew's presence used to be. And if you listen closely, that silence says more than any press release ever could. Because here's the reality insiders are starting to admit in hushed tones: this isn't containment anymore. This is permanent separation. The monarchy has drawn a line, and Andrew is on the other side of it. But here's where it gets unsettling. Because exile doesn't always mean the end. Sometimes it's just the beginning of something quieter, more unpredictable. A man who once lived at the very center of power, now pushed to the edges, watching, waiting, adjusting. And the question that keeps surfacing again and again in private conversations and behind closed doors is dangerously simple. What does a man like that do next? Because history doesn't forget patterns. And Andrew's story has never followed a straight line. Every time it seemed like the narrative had closed, something new emerged. Another detail, another connection, another crack in the carefully managed surface. And now, as those final skips disappear from Royal Lodge, as Marsh Farm prepares to receive its most controversial resident, as the headlines shift from shock to quiet observation, something feels unfinished, unresolved. Because that drive through Sandringham, that stone face, that silence, it wasn't closure. It was a signal, a moment frozen in time that felt less like an ending and more like the calm before something else surfaces. And maybe that's what makes this story so unsettling. Not what we've already seen, but what we haven't. Because if there's one thing this entire unraveling has proven, it's that the truth doesn't disappear. It waits. And when it comes back, it rarely comes back quietly.